Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Randall, and I'll be presenting to you about the Collaboration Across Cultures class. So welcome, everyone. As I said, my name is Stephen Randall, and I'm with the Liberal Arts and Sciences program at the University College Freiburg. And today, in the first EPIC EduTalk of 2024, I have the pleasure to briefly share with you my experiences in teaching an EPICUR course called Collaboration Across Cultures, a Case Method Approach. After my 10-minute overview, I am looking forward to your questions and your input. So in the development of our course, to guide our planning of sessions and examination formats, aside from practical aspects, we defined the intended learning outcomes early on. In addition to theoretical and methodological knowledge, we wanted to provide opportunities for students to develop their competences with respect to cross-cultural collaboration in practice, which was a major component of the course, as well as self-reflection skills about this collaboration. And finally, we also wanted to develop the key competence of effective presentation to varied stakeholders. Collaboration across cultures was offered through the course catalog here at Freiburg University College. In other words, that was the credit home, as well as via the EPICUR course catalog. The course took place entirely online, with meetings taking place via Zoom and a course room available via the EPICUR inter-university campus to share materials and collaborate on documents. It was a block course that took place over the course of 2 weeks in February 2022. And during that time, we had synchronous sessions, open office hours for the students to meet with teachers as needed, and most importantly, time scheduled for the students to collaborate on their projects and work on individual and group work assignments. So a lot of it was very self-guided time. The course was collaboratively taught by me, with a background in second language acquisition and teaching, as well as qualitative research design, and a colleague with a background in cross-cultural cognitive psychology. She and I shared responsibilities with respect to designing the course, content delivery during the sessions, also advising students on their projects during office hours, as well as grading the different assignments. And this was especially great through the EPICUR network. We were fortunate enough to have Professor Michael Byram, who coined the model for intercultural communicative competence, as a guest for one session, which was a really special session for the students. The course was offered to students across the EPICUR Alliance via the EPICUR catalog, as said. And I do have to say that 4 students who had signed up withdrew prior to the beginning of the course due to being overwhelmed with examination-related stress during the block course time. Nevertheless, given the course subject, collaboration across cultures, and our intended learning outcomes, we were very happy. We had a very diverse group sign up. And throughout the course, a total of 16 students actively participated. And just as we'd hoped, they came from different study programs, different EPICUR partner universities, and irrespective of the university they came from, they brought different national and cultural backgrounds into the mix, both from within Europe, for instance. We had one student from Freiburg, who was essentially an exchange student from a non-EPICUR partner university in the Netherlands, and we had another student who was a non-European student, I believe. As described in our course syllabus, we aim for students to navigate intercultural simulations, so cases that require analysis, decision-making, joint planning, and communication. They practiced working in an intercultural team and reflected on their own cultural biases, how these impacted their ability to work effectively in diverse groups, and perhaps most importantly, how barriers to effective collaboration could be overcome. But how did we go about making that happen in an online course? Well, we relied primarily on problem-based learning and specifically on a case method approach to this. Specifically, students were provided with complex problem scenarios, basically simulations, and were to develop solutions in diverse teams of 4. In this scenario, while we teachers did provide some theoretical input in the synchronous sessions, our main role was to structure and scaffold the student solution development process, which worked very, very well. In our approach to the case method approach, we presented the students with elaborate descriptions of cases. Now, I can't go into detail for timing reasons, but one centered around the role of social media and the education system of a European country of the team's choice, and one concerned social media in the context of sustainable food consumption. Students' task was to go from perspective of a consulting group, provide stakeholders with solutions to the complex problems provided. In this process, the students served as consulting groups in basically 2 phases. In week 1 of the course, they were to lay the groundwork for week 2. That is, frame the problem and the stakeholders' needs, basically figure out what was going on, how they could help, how they could guide them, find a way forward. And 2 groups of 4 students each worked on one or the other problem. And in week 2, the groups were to work on the problem they had not yet worked on. So basically they switched. And based on presentations of the teams exploring the problem in week 1, they were to provide the stakeholders with a recommended course of action, a formal report. So aside from our careful course planning, how did we ensure that students were learning what we had intended? Well, we used different types of assessments at different points in time throughout the course, which were aligned with the intended learning outcomes we had identified in the beginning. Students individually wrote 4 reflection papers in which they responded to prompts regarding their own learning and collaboration processes in their groups, for example, difficulties in communication and ways to overcome them. And as a team, they prepared 2 case presentations and jointly presented them at the end of each week. They also wrote 2 executive summaries on the cases as a team. And directly after the 2 weeks, every student turned in a press release describing the problem to basically a wider audience who might be interested in their work. We used grading rubrics, so both teachers would adhere to the same standards when we split up grading of the assignments. To share with you a brief summary of my experience regarding the course, co-teaching was great, especially with teachers from different disciplines, as different perspectives and areas of expertise can be combined, but also different preferences of teacher to-dos. The diversity of the students in our class, while sometimes challenging, was great for the purpose of this class, obviously, on collaboration across cultures. It was really a horizon expanding experience for the teachers and the students. I feel like I got a lot out of it. I know the students did as well. And the opportunity to have a guest lecturer who is an expert on the content through the EPICUR Alliance partners at USHA at the time was really wonderful. Again, not just for the students. And the case method approach we took was quite a lot of work in terms of preparation, but it was also worth it. And we can now reuse and share the materials, which we plan to do through the EPICUR Teaching and Learning Center. The variety of assignments also, again, meant a lot of work for us, but as each assignment had a different and naturally shorter form compared to typical final papers, it was also not as tiring to grade and provide feedback from a teacher's perspective. Moreover, the fact that assessment was ongoing throughout the class, we're able to evaluate where students were and thus address challenges and adapt throughout the process. And we were done grading pretty much as soon as the class was over. So it was an intense 2 weeks, but it was definitely worth it. And yeah, that's a short summary of the class. And now I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.